It's Dr. Dove. Today I want to talk to you about a rather serious topic: cutters. Self-injurious people who inflict pain on themselves purposely to deal with a variety of emotional, psychological, social issues that they're dealing with. Before I go further, let me first say, if you find that someone that you know is engaging in cutting, you want to get them help right away. Whether you have to go through an emergency service or you get them into counseling, you don't want to play with that because you never know to what degree the person is hurting, and if their cutting is a cry for help, or as if it's for attention, or if it's actually more closely related to a suicide attempt. Definitely want to encourage you to contact the proper medical care teams and authorities when you learn that someone is engaging in that behavior. I'm going to focus more so on teenagers and adolescents, their caretakers and parents' reaction and responses to it, although there are plenty of adults out there who cut as well. I'm just going to deal with a lot of the reactions and kind of the do's and don'ts of dealing with cutters. First, when parents tend to find out that their kids have engaged in self-injurious behaviors, first thing they want to do is, oh my God, my kid is suicidal, what am I going to do? They freak out. They totally freak out. And a lot of times, rightfully so. Remain calm. Why? Because you need to first find out why they're doing it, if you are able to solicit that information. One of the questions that I ask a lot of my clients, are you cutting because you want to kill yourself? Or are you cutting because you just want the pain to die? Now, if they're just wanting the pain to die, then it's not as severe or serious as suicide. It is a cry for help. It is a way of releasing painful emotions. It is more of a coping mechanism than it is a solution to problems, by ending your life. Of course, if they say, I want to kill myself, well, it's a different story. It's also a different conversation. When the parents come to their kids, or guardians or adults come to the kids, the first thing they want to ask is, what did I do wrong? What can I do to make it better? What can I do? It's not about you. And instantly, when you say, what did I do wrong? You just made their pain all about you. Typically, when somebody's cutting, their pain is all about them. Cutters can be, I don't want to use the word self-centered, but a little bit absorbed with self, because it's like, I'm hurting. My pain is bad, and their way of taking care of it is to inflict further pain. And a lot of times they're not trying to let everyone know what they're doing. A lot of them are actually trying to hide it, but then they typically end up getting found out. There are those who want to broadcast it. Maybe they're doing it for attention. Maybe they're doing it because it is a cry for help, and they feel like if somebody hears them, then they can actually get the help that they need. For the most part, cutters tend to hide it. They'll cover it up, right? So a parent or guardian coming and saying, what did I do wrong, and making it about the parent as opposed to the kid, who already feels unimportant and insignificant as it is, that's just not the right way to go. Although you may absolutely have to do with what is getting on their nerves. It's a part of the process, part of life. However, even if you are contributing to your child's pain, that is still typically not the main and only reason for them cutting. So you're not going to be able to fix it because technically you're not the one who broke it. Another thing that parents tend to do is they say, you're not serious, you're just doing that for attention. That's a no-no. You do not want to antagonize or provoke a cutter by telling them that they're not serious about what it is that they're doing. First of all, there's a lot of hurt that's going on inside of them. Second of all, there's anger too. And what happens when you push somebody who's angry? They retaliate. And since they're already accustomed to inflicting pain on themselves, how are they going to retaliate? By inflicting more pain on themselves. And we don't want that. Challenging them and saying they're not serious, they're just doing it for attention. Well, if you're really serious, you're doing it, you're going about it the wrong way. They're not gonna say, oh, you're right, I'm not gonna. No, that's not how that works. Don't want to do that. You want to be supportive. And when you're asking them, what is it? Is there anything I can do to help? I realize that I may not be able to, but I just want you to know that I'm here if somehow I can help. Offer your support. Don't challenge their pain, because essentially it's almost like invalidating their pain. It's like you're saying, oh, you're really not that hurt. Anybody who's actually hurting never wants to hear those words. They already feel insignificant as it is to begin with. Another thing that I see a lot of parents do is say, let me see your arm, let me see your legs. Every time the kid gets home from school, they can't even like grab a snack. You're standing at the door like, let me see, strip down, and check for all the cuts and see if there's anything new on your body. That gets old really quick, like super fast. Essentially, that's not even the root of the problem. That's the fruit that you see as a result of what's going on inside. So checking that is just like, I mean, it's like someone who has an eating disorder, right? And every time you guys go out to eat, you're like, when they go to the bathroom, hey, where are you going? How about I go with you? Did you throw? Did you make yourself? Okay, we're not going to dinner anymore. Let's say somebody has a problem with, I don't know, alcohol. Every time they reach to have a glass of wine or a beer or something or a drink, you're looking at them like, are you sure you should do that? Maybe you ought to skip that. Nobody wants to be around that. Nobody wants to constantly be reminded of something that they already probably feel is a problem for themselves. It's almost like you're sending a message to the kid who's cutting. Like, there's something wrong with you, and I have to monitor you very closely. It's almost like a judgment, like, I can't trust you, so I gotta check. I can't trust you. And I'm not saying that periodic checks are not warranted. However, what is the check going to do? Let's think about that. Okay, so you find a cut. Now what? You know they're cutting already. At this point, you should already have gotten them some help with a mental health therapist, psychologist, or a counselor. Or it's not a matter of, let's see if you're still doing it. What we want to know is what is causing you to want to do it getting better. Another thing parents like to do is say, promise me you'll never do it again. Promise me you won't cut. Promise me. Why in the world do you think that them making a promise to you is going to last or stick when they feel emotionally overwhelmed? It's not going to happen. And now that they've made this promise that they can't keep to you, when they get overwhelmed and then they actually end up cutting, how do you think they're going to feel? Knowing that they have broken their promise, disappointed you, they're afraid you're going to find out. And that's just going to compile more negative feelings on top of what they're already feeling about themselves, right? They feel bad about themselves whenever they disappoint someone. And that's just going to make them want to cut more. Asking them to make a promise not to cut is like asking somebody whose favorite meal is like donuts. And you're like, hey, promise me you'll never have another donut again. Really? Oh yeah, I promise. Oh, hey. Again, offer that encouragement. Hey, if you feel like you want to cut, you know, I'm here to talk to you. Now, most times if someone's going to cut, it's either spontaneous, and if they're planning it, they're probably not going to come and talk to some, you know, I'm really feeling like cutting. Can you talk me out of it? Sometimes you'll get that, but for the most part, it's being planned, and so they're going to be secretive about it anyways. One of the reasons why people cut is because they feel like they have been hurt so bad that that emotional pain that they're experiencing, the physical pain that they would experience from cutting, pales in comparison to the emotional pain that they're experiencing, right? So it's like, oh my God, I'm hurting so bad inside. Whether it's because someone was mean to me, it's like, you hurt me, I hurt me. You reject me, I reject me. And that pain is so intense. Or I've disappointed someone, I've let someone down. What's wrong with me? That kind of mentality. And it gets so bad that I have to hurt myself. You have those who cut because they like the sight of their own blood. The pain is dripping out. As the blood drips out, so is the pain. Then you have some cutters, again, who are doing it for attention. You have some cutters who are doing it as a form of punishment when they feel like they've done something wrong. How do I know so much about cutting? Well, besides the academics of what I learned in school, going through my doctoral program in psychology, clinical forensic psychology, I also was a cutter. Former cutter. Something that you may or may not know is that a lot of cutters have cliques. They will gravitate toward other people who self-injure. It's just someone you can relate to. In my early 20s, I used to cut, and I did it to a lot of times because I was in painful situations. There were aspects of myself that I could not fully embrace. Whenever someone hurt me, I internalized that hurt. I inflicted pain upon myself. So I understand it quite well. And then there were some other situations that were going in my life where it's like, well, I did something that violated my own moral code or my spiritual or religious code or something like that, and I couldn't be punished by my parents, and the law couldn't punish me, and so it's like, okay, God is mad at me, I gotta get punished. Bad girl, bad girl. You can't just do that and get away with it. There has to be a consequence for what you did. I like to consider myself a living witness of one who's been through it and come out of it, and so now I like to share. I'm very transparent. Helping people understand it better can help them deal with those who are around it, and then if my story will help someone else who's dealing with it, because they thought maybe I never will get past this, but you can, and go on to take whatever was painful for you and utilize it to help someone else get through what it is that they're going through in life. So that's what I am hoping that this message, this video, will do for those out there. Now, don't challenge your cutter and tell them they're not serious. Don't invalidate their feelings. Don't go checking on them every day to find out if they're cutting or not. Okay, because if you try to take away that coping and you haven't replaced it with a more positive coping mechanism, you're kind of leaving them helpless. Some coping mechanisms are healthy and some are negative and maladaptive. Provide them support. Let them know you love them. Parents, you have teenagers and adolescents who are in that stage. Their self-esteem is low. It really does take a lot of self-esteem building to move beyond the desire to cut. 9 times out of 10, you didn't find out because they came to you and said, you know, Dad, I just want you guys to know that I cut on myself. It doesn't really happen. They usually get found out, right? You either see the cuts or they tell somebody at school who tells a teacher or something like that, and so they become what I would call exposed, you know, prematurely or without their, you know, desire or consent. They didn't want that to happen, and so then you have a parent that's like, sit down and let's talk about it, talk to me about it, and trying to force them to talk to someone who they are not comfortable talking to about it. It's just going to make the situation worse. It's going to clam them up tighter, so you don't want to try to force them, and sometimes they don't even understand why they're doing it, so you don't want to be forceful. You want to be supportive, you want to be loving, you want to be compassionate, understanding, and definitely patient when you're dealing with someone who cuts. If you do have any questions, you can check out the website that I have, www.ldpke.com. That stands for Love, Dove, Peace, Kingdom Enterprises. On there you can submit your questions and ideas that you have about wondering about someone who's cutting in your life, or any other questions that have to do with mental, emotional, even spiritual health. Also get some resources and tools that you may need in order to help you deal with either if you're a cutter yourself or someone that you know and love is cutting. For those who do cut, this is what I tell my cutters to do. Clean it. Wipe it up with some alcohol. Why? Why take care of it? Because usually someone who's cutting, they're inflicting pain on themselves. It is a form of showing that I don't love me, I don't care about me. When they clean it, it's almost like a subconscious message that they're sending to their mind that, yeah, I do care about myself. After I hurt myself, now I'm going to care for myself. And I know that's kind of like the cycle of abuse, like a batterer, right? It's like I beat you up and then I come over and take care of you afterwards. But that's okay, that's just a starting place. I just want them to clean it up, take care of it, because it's starting to teach them how to care for themselves, how to love themselves. So I always tell my cutters, hey, if you're gonna cut, clean it up, okay? Show yourself a little bit of love. And we work on self-love. So that's just another pointer that I wanted to add at the end. You guys have a fabulous day, and we'll talk to you soon. Someone like us.